Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is For Pause in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. Today I'm going to be talking to you about some of my favorite young adult and middle grade books that I read in 2022. If you're new to my channel or you are stumbling upon this video, I am doing a week-long series where I am talking about some of my favorite books in all of these genres. I will have a playlist link up above. I've said on my channel before that I'm not really reading YA anymore. I am reading middle grade still. There's I don't know, I feel like there's still a nostalgia level to that. However, I did still find some good YA this year and I want to talk about it. So I'm going to combine them with middle grade and young adult because I don't think that I have enough for a video for each of them, so we're just combining it, but I will separate it between middle grade and young adult in this video, and I'll have timestamps down below. For the middle grade books, the first one I want to talk about is Small Spaces and Dead Voices by Catherine Arden. These are the first two in a quartet of middle grade horror books, and middle grade horror, that's where it's at. I really enjoyed this, and I think that I really found an element of horror that I really like, because I don't like scary things that much or at all. However, middle grade horror, you really have to rely on the atmosphere. You have to rely on the world building because you can't rely on the slasher and the gore and things like that. So they become really spooky, really ominous, and it's it's my cup of tea. Small Spaces and Dead Voices really did that. So this kind of takes place one in each season. Obviously it's a quartet. So Small Spaces takes place in the fall. It takes place at this farm with cornfields and scarecrows, and they have to go into the mist and rescue someone, and it was a good time. It was spooky. It reminded me of the Doctor Who episode where the scarecrows are coming alive and walking. It's kind of what it reminded me of, and it was there was a very real sense of spookiness and ominous, and even though it's designed for 11-year-olds, still felt spooky. And then Dead Voices takes place in the winter, and it takes place at the secluded ski resort where they all go for this winter retreat, and it's snowing and they get snowed in and all this stuff, and we start kind of retelling this dark fairy tale, kind of almost like a grim fairy tale, and it gets very spooky, very dark. And I really enjoyed both of these. The other middle grade book that I really loved this year was Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. I'm actually a little bit behind because I think everyone really loved this book last year, and I read it back in February of this year, so it's going on this list. I have not gotten to the second one, Amari and the Great Game. I really want to in 2023. I had it on a couple of TBRs and then just never got to it. So I'm definitely going to make it a priority. But this is about a girl whose brother, they say he's been killed, but really she doesn't think so. She thinks that he's either been kidnapped or is lost or something like that. She actually ends up finding out that she has magical powers, and goes off to this school to learn about her powers, to try to hone them and control them and things like that. It's definitely the superior Harry Potter. I always try to, when people are talking about oh, I've read Harry Potter, which isn't a great book, just objectively, beyond the fact that the author is a terrible person, I always try to recommend this book as well as Nevermore, which I think is another good comparison, and better books. Like I said, I will definitely be reading the second book in early 2023. Now let's move into some YA books. A couple of these I do not own anymore, but the Passing Playbook by Isaac Fitzsimmons was a really good sports YA contemporary about a trans boy who is on the soccer team and is trying to compete with the team, but because he's trans, obviously he has some legal paperwork that doesn't the gender on his birth certificate is not the same as what he's presenting. So there's he's afraid that he's gonna get outed. I think that this was really well done. It was a very short read, but it was really powerful. There's also a really adorable, cute romance in it. Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe is a historical fiction queer YA romance-ish. It's more of just a coming of age story, and a story of realizing that she's queer, realizing that she's into women, and that she's attracted to women, and just discovering that all while in the 50s. And as someone who does not read historical fiction, I really enjoyed this. I buddy read this with Cal from Retrieving Books, and we both really liked it. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I think that the ending was a little bit too quick. And there was this one like subplot with her father that I wish they would have kind of gone a little bit more into. It kind of just ended up a little bit too, it was wrapped up a little too nicely, but overall, really enjoyed it. Also, A Lasso Away by Darcy Little Badger was a new author for me that I found this year, and this was another like one of those really spooky, ominous books that doesn't really look like it should be a spooky, almost horror book, but there are vampires in it. There are there's a lot of lore in this, and I think it was extremely well done. It is by an Indigenous author, and it was just very creepy. There's not a ton I can talk about this book without like really spoiling a lot of it, but essentially this girl can raise the spirits of animals. She tries to like raise the spirit of a dinosaur, which is a lot of fun, interesting. Fun might not be the right word, but it was interesting for sure. And then there was a death in the family, and she is finding out that it was not as mundane as it seemed, as the authorities made it out to be, that there was definitely something sinister happening. White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. I actually already talked about this one in my best thrillers and horrors, so I'm not going to go into detail about it, but since it is a YA book, if you are just watching this one, here you go. This is about a girl whose family has to move into this kind of haunted house, and there's a lot of anxiety rep and mental health rep, and she has like, she gets very anxious. She thinks that everything is going to have bed bugs and termites, and she has these very real panic attacks that are on page, and some of the neighbors are kind of nefarious, kind of like up to no good, and this was kind of like a Haunting of Hill House retelling. And it was fascinating. I'm definitely going to be reading The Weight of Blood this spooky season, now that I have kind of read her other, her earlier book, because that one everyone has been raving about. Okay, this year I finished up the Heartstopper comics, or at least like I'm up to date with them now. I read volume 3 and volume 4 in 2022, and I absolutely loved them. Volume 4 broke me. Like, I don't cry when reading books, and this one almost made me do that. It's really sad. They're really dealing with a lot of things. This one, they get to go to Paris on this trip, and then this one they are dealing with an eating disorder. One of the boys is, and one of the boys is trying to support the other one in that. I'm trying really hard not to go into spoilers. These books are adorable. I cannot wait for volume 5 to come out. Hey, I also started the Inheritance Games trilogy this year. I read the first 2. I'm only going to talk about the first one because the second one was very disappointing, very lackluster. Hopefully it's just middle book syndrome, and the third one will be great. This one, however, was really interesting. If you read The Westing Game, or you remember that from like when you read it as a kid, this one definitely has a lot of the same vibes. It is about a girl who is named the recipient of $46.2 billion, and like a football team and like jets, everything. She is going to be this recipient. She's never met the guy. So she ends up going to this person's house, trying to figure this out. There's like a mystery. The old man is like, you know, loves his puzzles, loves his games. And so she is trying to figure out how she fits into that puzzle. I really like this one, especially for a YA thriller, which I don't really enjoy. Like, in general, YA thrillers and horrors are not books that I gravitate towards, and I really like this one, and I am definitely going to be reading the 3rd book to finish out the trilogy in 2023. Okay, and then probably my 2 favorite YA books, one contemporary, one fantasy. So we have Home Field Advantage by Dahlia Adler. This is about a girl who becomes the football captain of a high school. The boy who was the quarterback died over the summer, and a girl comes in to become their quarterback, and you know, is trying to like win the respect of the team, but then also the like head cheerleader falls for her, and it's a beautiful queer romance that happens in the South. They're from Florida, so there's obviously some like social commentary there. I really loved this one. This is probably my favorite YA book that I read this year, which is surprising because I've actually never read from that author before, and I might pick up more books from her. And then The Year of the Reaper by Micaiah Lucier. This is a book that I also read for the video where I read Cal's favorite books. And this is a very accessible fantasy. It takes place kind of in this like medieval time period where like, you know, the Black Plague is happening, and this guy has been quested to find the assassin that was trying to kill the queen. There is this other girl that is part of this that is just the funniest character in the world. She meets our main character by stealing his horse and saying, no, I'm just gonna borrow it, you can have him back. And then later on, they have these conversations like, well, we share a horse now, so we must be friends. Their banter was so great, and probably the best part of this book. Okay, those were some of my favorite middle grade and YA books that I read in the year of 2022. Cannot believe we are saying that. We are at the end of this. Tomorrow will be the last of the genre breakdowns in the honorable mentions, and then we will get to the fun stuff, the worst books of the year and the best books of the year. It's gonna be a good time. So let me know down in the comments below what your favorite YA or middle grade book was this year. And if you're not feeling chatty, you can put a football emoji for home field advantage. That is all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, the links to my Twitter, Instagram, Goodreads, and my Patreon are linked in the description below. Thank you for watching.